with all the different guides that work for me, all the different hunting partners I've had over the years, I've found that there's essentially two types of guys when it comes to pack organization and just organization in general when it comes to planning and executing these hunts. There's guys that are constantly forgetting something, right? They're the guy saying, hey, do you happen to have an extra puffy? Do you have some extra butt wipes? Like this type of guy that's always missing something. Or there's guys who, and I fall into this category, they're more OCD, they've got a bunch of checklists, and the problem they have is they're spending way too much time getting their shit together to go on a hunt, right? Yeah, you don't forget anything, but you're the guy that's constantly late, and you're the guy that constantly eats up a ton of time right there before those hunts, and your wife and kids are like, what the heck, man, you're going away for a week, but you're spending the whole day packing for your hunt. Like, what takes you so long? Just throw your shit in the truck, right? But a good pack system solves the situation for both categories. You're gonna end up having what you need all the time if you implement a system, and two, it's gonna take you way less time to pack up for your next hunt or your next trip. In no way do I want you to go out and buy everything that I have here and everything I'm gonna show you. What I want you to take away from this video is the idea of the system, the logic I use, and then you can go out and choose the brands that you like, choose the brands that you can get the best value on for the items. All that doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is you come away from this video with an idea of how to implement a system that works well across different hunts. If you're doing a lot of pack-centric trips, I think there's an ideal 3-pack system. You've got your Bino harness, you've got what I call your every trip pack, either like a Sherman pack or this little Scout pack from T&K, a pack like that. And then you have your trip specific pack, which is this pack here that's gonna be on your main frame. So now let's dive into each one of those. All right, so your Bino harness. You should have this on every trip, and it's really your bare bones, mission critical, get through a night, get through a hairy situation stuff. This is meant for the situation where you assume your everyday pack and your trip specific pack aren't with you. What do you need in this to get you through a tough situation or a night? That's what's gonna be in your Bino harness. If you wanna know the nitty gritty of what I've got in here, the exact items, go check out my video. It's called Bino Harness Essentials. I'll stick a link up here. Go check out that. And this pack is gonna be with you not only on all your trips, it's gonna be with you during every moment of all those trips. That's the key thing with this. It's your critical stuff. And what that means, you have to be very picky in terms of the bulk and weight of what you keep in there. You don't want to have the constant urge to take this off of you, right? You want to be able to comfortably carry it all the time with you. I got a lot of comments on that Bino Harness Essentials video about I carry all of that, Cliff, but I also carry some additional emergency gear, some additional first aid gear. And I totally understand that. But when you're talking about something you have on you all the time, you have to be very nitpicky about those items. They have to be truly critical. When you get in the field and there's so many other things going on, there's always this little click that's like, man, can I just take this harness off? And that's the problem. For me personally, I've thinned down things on my harness more and more because I'm realistic with the fact that the heavier this is, the bulkier this is, the more uncomfortable this is, the more likely I am gonna set it down. The only time I'll take this harness off is if I have to get on the last 30, 40 yards of a stalk and I gotta get down on my belly or it's not gonna happen. I'll take this harness off and set it down. If the shot opportunity arises, I get back to this harness and throw it back on immediately. That's the only exception, so I do wanna be transparent there. But in general, the bulkier this is, the more likely you're gonna do that. You're gonna take it off on all your stocks, not just those really hard stocks. You're gonna start taking it off on all your stocks if it's bulky. You're gonna start taking it off if it's just annoying and you're just gonna go on, I'm just gonna go on a half-mile hike from camp. All right, so that leads us to our every trip pack. Over the last 6 or 7 years, the primary pack that I use for my every trip pack is this Kifaru Sherman. There's a couple things that are nice about this. One, there's multiple pockets, right? So I can keep all my essentials in here. And just some examples of things I carry in here that I don't carry in my Bino harness that people might think would be better in my Bino harness, but because of that critical kind of weight idea that I mentioned, I carry in here. I carry my SteriPin in here. I carry toilet paper in here. I carry my basic meds in here. I carry the trauma part of my med kit in here, like my tourniquet, gauze, those sort of things are in here. Essentially, what I have in here is stuff that I want on all of my hunting trips, all of my scouting trips, but I don't put things in here that are super trip specific, right? And the reason I do that is it makes it so I don't have to constantly be repacking this bag for every trip. That you have in this pack, it tends to be very correlated with stuff that you want to be accessible. Even on a trip that involves a whole bunch of other gear that's gonna end up on your pack frame in your bigger bag, that tends to be the stuff that's okay being less accessible, right? Like your camp gear, your tents, you know, your deeper layers, that sort of thing. But your every trip pack tends to have all the stuff that you're in and out with, right? You're using all the time and you want easy access to. So this Sherman pocket from Kifaru, or I've been trying this new Scout Pack from T&K. They're perfect because the way they're set up, you can put them on the outside of your trip specific pack, and that's huge because it's on the outside. You're not having to dig inside all the time. If you have a system of strapping it, and I've rigged this one up for the T&K Scout Pack, where I can actually take this Scout Pack and I can just put it on my harness. So I kind of have an extra option, right? I don't always have to have my trip specific, you know, with the frame pack. I can actually just take my everyday pack, this Scout Pack, and attach it to my harness, and I can just have that set up. So that works for a lot of trips. Just a caveat there, even for day hunts, a lot of times I like to have a pack frame because a real pack frame, a real pack, it allows me to pack meat out even on a day hunting trip. But the thing that's nice about this setup with your everyday pack, you know, basically this kind of like, you know, little koala type of pack on the back, is on the accessibility front, you can expand into that, right? You can have things that all of a sudden you need more access to. You have in your trip specific pack, like optics or layers, right? So it looks like it's gonna rain, we're dealing with thunderstorms. All of a sudden I want my rain gear to be very accessible. Well, that's easy if you have this type of setup, because you can take a sweater or your rain gear, a layer that you're going in and out of, and all of a sudden you want it to be more accessible. You can put it in here and you can close your everyday pack on top of that. Okay, strap this down, compress it, and now all of a sudden that layer under here is also accessible. So you have access to all the stuff in your everyday pack, plus things you're taking out of your specific trip pack and keeping them accessible. The other one that I use this a lot for is optics. A lot of times I'll be glassing with 15s. I tend to glass with 15s a lot at actually close ranges. So real tight aspen benches that are real thick. They've got a lot of dead aspens in them, you know, bedding areas that I can still glass. All glass in that country, even out west, for mule deer and elk, all glass, you know, sub 600, 700 yards, just meticulously. I gotta have my 15s or my chest binocular, whatever, to do that type of glassing, real meticulous. I have to have them on a tripod. The thing that's annoying is a lot of times when you're glassing that way, you don't spend like hours at the same glassing spot. You might be at one spot for 30 minutes, maybe an hour, and then go to the next spot. So you don't want to keep having to take your binos or your spotter off your tripod, put it all in your pack, all of that. So what I'll do is I'll glass and I'll be in the same type of vegetation. So the height of my legs, you know, all of that, the angle I've got my glass on, I'll keep all that the same. I'll leave those legs long. I'll set it down my pack like this. A lot of times with these packs, I can just stick the legs right down there, and then I'll use some compression straps like this. Now my optic that was in my trip specific pack is now more accessible because I'm holding it down with this everyday pack that's conveniently attachable on the outside. I use this a lot. A matter of fact, a lot of the pictures that you'll see of me up in the mountains guiding or hunting for myself, you'll see an optic in here like this, and you'll see a layer in here. And I find it so practical, and it saves me so much time, and I just feel so much more organized. I'm not shuffling in and out of my crap all the time. I do this very similarly with a rifle. For me personally, the easiest way to pack a rifle in a pack, if I don't need it real accessible, like we're packing out of camp or that sort of thing, or we're covering ground, I'll lay the rifle down the middle, and then I'll use an auto-locking strap over the rifle to really cinch it down. I'll use my other straps to control the rifle from going up and down. I go over that in detail on some other videos. I'll stick a link up here to one of those, and you can see how I do that, but I'll do the same thing. So to me, this type of system, the integration between the harness, my every trip pack, and my specific pack is huge. And the way I do it is huge. I've done it all for a reason, and a lot of it's just utility driven. I keep dwelling on this thing, but the last thing I'll say that I like about this setup, this pack on the outside that can compress gear on the outside and keep all my every trip stuff accessible, is I like having these straps down at the bottom, right? So these straps here, and you're gonna have this on the Sherman, or you're gonna have this on the Scout Pack if you rig it up the way I do. And what that allows you to do is a couple things. I pack meat primarily in my main bag. Sometimes I'll carry particularly a bone-in quarter between the bag I have on my pack and the actual pack frame. So I will, like a boned quarter, I'll put it in here because it holds structure. But boned out meat I won't put in here. Capes, a lot of the times, just because of their size, I can pull the bag off and basically flatten out the cape along the whole frame, and then I can snug the cape down on the frame with the bag. I find that's a little easier than putting it into the bag. One, you put capes inside a bag, particularly like a full body mountain goat cape, and your bag smells like mountain goat forever. I mean, my bag smells like mountain goat anyways, and usually I pack those on the outside. But this allows me to do is it allows me to take these straps on this type of pack, and I can put it down here, and I can actually take these females, put them on my frame closer, or leave them where they're at depending on the structure of the meat or the cape, and then I can compress that bottom down, right? It's kind of like the meat shelves you see people have in here, like a solid meat shelf, but instead it's just two straps and compression. For me, that works. I don't need another piece of fabric in there. As long as I have these two straps, I can compress it down. I'll press in here, I'll get everything close, and that keeps the cape from falling out the bottom. It keeps a meat quarter from hanging out down here. And before I forget, if you want to know the gear list of what I specifically carry in this everyday pack, be it this Scout Pack or the Sherman, I've got an elk hunting gear list video that goes over in detail what I carry in the everyday pack. I'll stick a link up right here. You can go check that out for the nitty gritty of the actual items in there. All right, so now let's talk about our trip specific bag. The first thing I decide in terms of what I'm actually gonna take in terms of a pack, is there potential for packing meat? If there's a potential for packing meat, I always have a legitimate pack frame with a bag on it. And so that's my first choice. And then the next choice I make is based on the duration of the trip, really based on the camping gear I'm taking, right? Tents, sleeping bags, and then the amount of food. Actually, for like a 1 or 2 night trip, I can actually get away backpacking with this pack, a very small pack. This is a small cubic volume pack from Kifaru, but if I'm going on a much longer backpack hunt, I have to go with something like an AMR, just because of the bulk of the food for the most part, and some of the camp equipment for longer trips, depending on the weather, when in the season it is, that sort of thing. I'll move to a bigger pack. And then of course I choose my optics. The other choice I make, you know, what sort of layers I have in there, that sort of thing, right? And like I said before, there are situations where I don't need this, right? For scouting trips, maybe a short day hunt where I'll have vehicle access, I could drag a deer to the truck, that sort of thing. In those cases, I might just take my every trip pack and my harness. But 80-90% of the time I'm taking a frame, even if it's just a smaller bag like this and I got it compressed all down and I can use it for a day hunting pack, no problem. And when you get into trip specific gear outside of your camp gear and all that, which is obvious, there's other things that you might only take on certain trips. And so that's why I keep a lot of my trip specific gear, even my camp gear or certain type of hunts gear, I keep it modular also. And a lot of times I'll use dry bags. So for certain layers I'll use dry bags, for certain equipment I'll use dry bags. This kill kit is a perfect example. It's got some game bags in it. It's got a few other little things that I would only use if the hunt's going to involve me processing a game animal and me using my game bags for the hunt. The reason I specify that specifically is one thing that's always duplicated in people's packs is game bags. As a guide, I would always ask before the hunt, like, hey, do you have game bags? Do you want to use your game bags? A lot of people prefer to use their game bags because they're going to take them with them. They don't want to deal with that. And hunters are like that too. If you're hunting with a buddy, you don't carry game bags in them if they're the only one with a tag. There's a little weight there. Even with the fancy dancy new lightweight game bags, you're still duplicating something you don't need. Keeping it modular keeps that packing component so much easier. I just don't take that, put it to the side. So I hope that gives you a feel for my pack system. All those little things I do and have described through the system, those are things that help me, again, on those primary goals. To stay organized, know where all my stuff is when I need it, have the accessibility tiers there based on what I use most often, and limit the time and stress involved in actually packing. If you're interested in the actual items that are in each of these packs, I suggest you start out with this video, my Bino Harness Essentials video. It'll go into details on that, and then from there you can go into my other gear list videos. Thanks for watching and good luck out there this fall.